Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome. My name is Cheney Pope, and I'm the Communications Manager at the Desmoid Tumor Research Foundation. In honor of Rare Disease Day, this Saturday, February 28th, we launched our 2026 Spread the Word campaign and invited a really special guest to have an impactful conversation with us tonight. Even though Rare Disease Day is only one day each year, at the DTRF, we will continue to raise awareness every day on behalf of the desmoid tumor patient community. We encourage you to visit our website for resources and facts to help you raise funds for research efforts and amplify messaging about desmoid tumors all year long. Now we've arrived at the moment we've been waiting for. I'm excited to introduce you to our special guest, Morgan, who will be sharing her desmoid tumor story with all of us today. As always, please remember that the desmoid tumor patient and caregiver experience is vast and varied. What works for one patient or caregiver may not work for another. When you listen today, maybe the specifics Morgan shares are different from your own experience, but we ask you to listen to what really resonates with you. I invite you to engage with this content and conversation tonight. This is about a conversation, together in a casual setting where we can all share this from around the world and watch and learn from Morgan. So I invite you to share comments and questions in the chat throughout the live event. After our conversation with Morgan, we'll highlight a few of those questions in a Q&A. Now let's welcome Morgan to the conversation. Hey, Morgan.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi. All right. I'm so happy to be here with you today. And I know there's so many people that are going to tune in tonight and in the recording when they watch it another time, potentially, are just so grateful to get to listen and to chat with you tonight. So thank you so
Thank
much
you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So like most of our Facebook Lives and now Instagram Live, we're going to just start at the beginning of your story and just really get down into those nitty-gritty details that you want to share with everyone tonight. Can you tell us first about your desmoid tumor diagnosis?
Yeah, so 2020 was when I got my first diagnosis. I think I was like 26 years old. A friend of mine noticed a lump on my chest, which was pretty small, about maybe quarter size, but I kind of kept dismissing it and just thought like, oh, it's nothing, it's nothing. 6 months goes by and it kept growing and growing. At the time, I had breast implants, so my surgeon thought it was something to do with that. They ended up doing surgery to remove the implants and then put new ones in. But as they were doing the surgery, they found the mass. That is when he closed me up and sent me straight to the hospital, and that's kind of where my journey began. That's where it all started. So yeah.
Yeah. And again, just going back to that first moment where you noticed the lump and then you went to the doctor, did your doctor know what a desmoid tumor was?
Absolutely not. Not even like the breast surgeon had no idea. And then when I went to Kaiser, when I was going through Kaiser, they had no idea what it was either. So it took about 6 months to almost a year to actually diagnose me with it. And it was like really, really new. So no one knew what they were dealing with, how to approach it, where to send me. So it was really a confusing time for us.
For sure. And I'd love to mention too, you're located in California, in Kaiser, and we're going to talk a lot tonight about not only Morgan's story, but also just the medical team journey she's been on and how to advocate for yourself within the system. And she certainly has been through a lot and has some really great advice to share with everybody. So I just want to remind everybody that we're Morgan tonight. And we just are so appreciative that she's going to share some intimate details about her desmoid tumor journey, along with a lot of other amazing information tonight. We talked a little bit to start off the evening with where her desmoid was located, her first one. And like she just mentioned, she had surgery as a result of that initially. So how long did, I think you mentioned maybe 6 months to a year of uncertainty. How long did it really take to get a definitive diagnosis?
So they sent me to a doctor in LA, which he wasn't even a sarcoma specialist. He was, honestly, they had no idea there. I think it was just like a oncologist, and he didn't it took him about 6 months, I would say. He was like, okay, we did the pathology report. We've never really seen it. We've never studied it much in school. And that's exactly what he told me. He said, we haven't studied it much, so we really don't know how to go about this. So I think it did take about 6 or 7 months to finally diagnose it and kind of get a plan going. But even with that, they didn't set me up with the right doctors, I don't think, looking back the first time.
Yeah. And now, kind of fast forward, so that was 2020 when you first noticed the lump, right? Then we have about 6 months of uncertainty, along with the surgery that was, to uncover what was actually going on. Um, what was that next stage? So you had a removal, and then you also progressed to the point where, okay, now that it is definitively a desmoid. Talk about that period afterwards. Like, what were some of your fears at that moment, or even initially when you were diagnosed? What were some of your fears?
Well, I remember vividly when I first found out I even had the mass, is when I was coming out of anesthesia. My mom literally was the one who told me, hey, don't freak out, but they found a mass. And I think I blacked out after that. I was just like, what? Like, what's going on? And then obviously after that, I went to the doctor. We did all the tests and stuff. But once they finally found out it was a desmoid tumor, I just felt kind of lost in a way, because immediately I went to Google. I went to find anybody who's had it so I can talk to them about it. But I just kind of felt alone, especially because the doctors really didn't know anything about it. So I'm like, okay, the doctors are the ones we should trust, but they don't know. I mean, they don't know everything, but it just felt like a lonely diagnosis. So then I just was doing everything I could to like find anybody that was going through it, or if they knew somebody. So it just felt I felt scared and alone.
Yeah, of course. And just sitting in that moment, I know it was a while ago. So we're in kind of, just for everybody that's jumped on now, we're kind of in the timeline of Morgan's diagnosis, how long it took to get a definitive diagnosis, and now in that first year. So after surgery, after that recovery, what was that treatment progression like afterwards?
Treatment for it, they kind of, this is kind of what makes me a little frustrated, because they kind of waited too long. They've waited to the point where it was really big. I think the first time I had it, it was about 11 centimeters, or it was like a grapefruit sized tumor. So it was in my chest wall, so it was pretty prominent, and people kept pointing it out, and it was just kind of it was not a fun time. But yeah, so they ended up sending me to an oncologist at Kaiser, and then they put me on medication to try to shrink it enough to where I could eventually get surgery. But they couldn't do surgery right away because of everything it was attached to. So at the time, they said, well, if we do surgery now, you're going to end up with your chest wall muscle completely out, ribs taken out. So nothing is going to be there to protect your organs, which really scared me. So they're saying, you're going to have to live with a chest plate for the rest of your life. And I was like, okay, no, let's not do that. I guess let's do the medication and see where we go from there.
Yeah, sure. And that was, I've been honored enough to have conversations with you prior, and to talk through your progression. But in that moment of trying to decide what's the next course of action, and you had quite a few side effects related to treatment as well. So talk about just the side effects you experienced and how it affected your quality of life, not only as you're waiting to see if the tumor was shrinking, but also, afterwards. And then we'll get more into where you're at in your journey right now.
So when I was on the medication for the first time, it was really rough. I went through almost every side effect. Obviously nausea, hair loss. I lost almost all of my hair. Not all of it, so I'm thankful for that. And I lost a lot of weight, which was unhealthy, which then triggered kind of like almost disordered eating in effect, because everyone was kind of praising me for that. And then I had to recoup afterwards. And kind of build myself back up. So there was a lot of mental stuff that went into it as well. But definitely not eating as well. I did not have enough electrolytes. I was working out constantly, and I didn't have enough nutrients to do that. So that wasn't healthy at all. But yeah, it was definitely, my depression really kind of went in a little bit more after starting that medication.
Absolutely. And I think that, one of the biggest pieces of your story has to do with not only you advocating for yourself, but also you had to make a big shift with your medical team. And so there's been some big changes where you have had to have the agency to say, I need to go in a different direction related to the side effects that you had, related to the, the conversations you had within the clinical setting with your doctors. So tell me a little bit about, did you have a multidisciplinary team when you were first diagnosed?
When I was first diagnosed, I don't believe I did. They didn't, like I said, they didn't know what they were dealing with.
I think we might be having some technical difficulties real quick. Morgan will be right back and we will start our conversation again. All right, I think she's back.
I,
All right. No worries.
uh,
You were saying that you weren't sure about the multidisciplinary team.
yeah, so I was kind of hopped around to different doctors and stuff like that. But I remember the second time I found a lump in my armpit, I went back to Kaiser and I was like, hey, like, this is concerning me. Can you please check it out? And they completely dismissed me. Uh, oh, this, wouldn't touch it, which I was like, okay, this is weird. I told my husband, I told my parents, I'm like, hey, I think we need to go a different route because they're not even listening to me. So that's when I had their support of quickly getting out of there and then switching over to a different care. And that's when I really felt that they had my side, that they really put me in a sarcoma specialist. They had oncologists, a surgery oncologist with me. All the doctors were lined up and they had my back and they were continuously talking to me, asking everything. And actually ended up being a radiologist that found the second desmoid tumor because of them sending it to the tumor board. So that was really cool.
Yeah, for sure. And just being in that first, you and I have talked a little bit about what that felt like. And I think you might have broken up a little bit for everybody when you said you had a doctor that wouldn't even palpate or touch your desmoid tumor. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more of like, that was such a turning point, like you said, that you went to your mom and your boyfriend at the time, your husband now, and was like, I can't do this anymore. We've got to make a change. So tell us a little bit more about just if someone is watching that's had a similar experience or may in the future be in an office and they feel so uncomfortable, what would you tell them, to do?
Honestly, it's your body and you know your body the most. And you just got to follow your instinct because right when even when she didn't even touch it, that's when I was like, okay, you're not even going to touch it and see if it's something more than a cyst. I think I need to go elsewhere. And that's when everything changed. That's when my care changed. That's when I started really advocating for myself because honestly, I was mad. I was mad and I was hurt. And I'm like, you're sitting 2 feet away from me. You're not even at least touch it and see. And they just literally said like 5 times, it's a cyst, it's a cyst. And I'm like, okay, but you really know your own body. So anything you feel or see, I would definitely advocate for yourself and go get it checked out, get a second opinion.
Yeah, and that's something that we hear so often. As your team has heard about dismissal, about patients being dismissed, whether it's like, a actual physical exam, like you're in a situation where, it wasn't even being touched or looked at or then dismissed terminology-wise, which is why Spread the Word exists, to really have this conversation about making sure that not only the patient community and caregiver community are educated, but that clinicians are too, and that we have the right and accurate classification for desmoid tumors. So at that point, and advocating for yourself, and that anger is so valid, and there's so much of it, like, you're so, so many times I've listened to you, and it's like, you're so kind and so gentle and just so willing to be in the moment with us as we've gotten to know each other, or know the team at ETRF. And to have that anger, like, how did it feel to be able to say, um, I got to sit in this for a minute and then make a decision? Was it really hard for you to be in that space?
Yeah, because I never really spoke up for myself a lot, and I've just now started to speak up for myself. So like when I first got diagnosed, I felt kind of ashamed in a way, or like confused or embarrassed. I don't know how to explain it. So I didn't
Mhm.
really talk about it much. I kind of like shoved it deep down and
Mhm.
just dealt with it. And everyone's like, "You're so strong, you're so strong." But I think I paid for that later. But then I realized, like, you know what? No, other people are going through this. I want to share my story. I want to speak up. I want so other people can feel like they can speak up as well.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of that part of like being honest, not only with yourself, but with other people and having a conversation like this, that's why it's so amazing that you're here tonight. The people that are just joining, we've walked through Morgan's diagnosis and um, a few other, pieces of her story that are really impactful with regards to her medical team and having to shift from one medical team to another and one hospital to another potentially, and how hard that is and how hard it is to advocate for yourself. Not to mention all the emotions and the roller coaster that you're already on, potentially with pain or medication side effects. There's so many things and so much weight right on on your shoulders. So let's talk a little bit like what is it like talking to your family and friends around you about desmoid tumor diagnosis?
In the beginning, it was a little frustrating because I had no idea what it was. No one else knew what it was. So it was really hard. So I did a lot of research myself, but when people would be like, well, is it cancer? Well, is it this? And then it was constantly that question, which I completely understand because I was even asking that question. Um, and also the fact that I was hurt too, because people were just like, well, it's fine, right? It's not cancer, so you're fine. And it
Mhm.
hurt my feelings. But in the first time of it, I just kind of like let them say whatever they wanted. I'm like, all right, you're right, you're right. I should be thankful, which I'm very thankful. But it still hurt because we still have an oncology team. We still have the medications to go through, all the MRIs, all the CT scans, all the blood drawn. We go through all this, like all the same stuff. So it just was kind of like that's kind of when I shut down the first time when people kept asking, and then I would. But this time around, I'm like, no, I want to tell the story. I want to share my story. I am able to tell it. So it's like this time around, I'm like thankful for it, so I can share.
Yeah. No, we so appreciate it. And you mentioned this time around. So let's fill people in on you had an initial tumor diagnosis, surgery, subsequent surgery to figure out, what the lump was back in 2020. So fast forward to the progression of another tumor growing and that location and kind of where you are now in your journey.
So, February 2025, I noticed a little lump as I was laying in bed under my armpit. So that's the one that they kept dismissing me about, that it was just a cyst. So that's when I was with Kaiser, and then immediately we jumped over to UCI. And during that time,
All right, we're gonna wait for Morgan to come back. I think she's back. There you go.
okay, so it kept growing, and then that's when the radiologist actually told my new oncologist, "Hey, I don't think that's a cyst, that's a desmoid tumor." But it was small enough to where we got on it right away.
Mhm.
So that started happening. So my oncologist told me, okay, we need to get on medication to keep it small, so we don't have to do surgery again, because that was the last option. Like, we don't want to do surgery with these types of tumors. Um, but unfortunately, both the medications that we tried no longer worked for me. So the tumor was growing like 3 times faster than the first time around, which they said is kind of normal once you get a first surgery for desmoids. It kind of aggravates it a little bit and it grows faster. So it ended up growing to about 14 centimeters, which was close to it was into my like pectoral muscle, under my armpit. It was getting next to all the nerves in the armpit area and close to blood vessels. So that's why they're like, okay, we need to get in there because it doesn't look like it's going to stop growing anytime soon.
And so just to catch everybody up too, so there was, we've been going through the diagnosis process, but also a second desmoid that grew, and Morgan is now at the point, again, we're like so grateful that you're able to do this tonight because you recently had to have another surgery. So tell us about the lead up to that surgery. And you went through so many steps, including a tumor board within your hospital and your oncologists and doctors that medical team now that are really advocating on your behalf as
Mhm.
well. So tell us kind of the progression of leading up to that surgery and what you felt and what your doctors were really working through for weeks and weeks before it got to surgery.
Right. So when I saw my oncologist, and he saw how big it was growing, even while being on medication, he's like, honestly, Morgan, this doesn't usually happen. The medicine usually helps to shrink it, but for some reason, your tumor outsmarted the medication and it's just growing 3 times faster. So they took it to the tumor board. They discussed other options, but at that point, since it was so large, they're like, we need to do surgery. So ended up doing surgery about 3 weeks ago now. They got the whole tumor, which was large. I even asked for a picture. It was crazy. But yeah, they got the tumor out. And then I got a call from my doctor like a couple days ago saying that the margins were not clear. So I still have the cells of the desmoid inside, which we knew was a high chance of that. So actually, they sent my case again to another tumor board yesterday. So I'm just waiting on the next steps for that.
How do you feel right now as far as and there's so many resources just to take a moment to pause on the website that we can point you to if you're watching tonight or watching the recording about our virtual tumor board and also tumor boards that exist inside major sarcoma centers as well as other hospital systems. But these multidisciplinary teams came together in Morgan's specific hospital system to review her case, to really weigh in on all facets of her tumor and her case specifically. And it's not without a lot of care and a lot of time. So if you ever want to watch a mock tumor board on our website, we have that available as well. And we can drop those in the chat if needed. But just want to remind everybody too, if you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as well. Definitely a little Q&A with Morgan at the end. So just let us know what you're thinking, how you're feeling, if you have any questions for us to follow up based on what Morgan shared so far in her journey. And right now you're at the space where you're not only recovering from surgery, getting the news now that there weren't clear margins, which there was some anticipation that might happen as a result of the surgery. But and now you're also waiting on the results from the tumor board that your case has been sent to again. How are you feeling mentally right now? How are you caring for yourself this post-operative type of period of your life?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, it's been really hard. Being out of my routine, being out of work, not being able to do much because of not being able to live, because I working out is my life, and I just haven't been able to do that. But I've been staying up with my therapy. Therapy really helps connecting with fellow Desmoid warriors as well. Reaching out, you guys, DTRF has been amazing for helping me cope with all the questions I have, and so I really am thankful for you guys. But yeah, just therapy, my family, great support with family and friends. Just trying to taking walks, just kind of being thankful for where I am right now and the opportunity to do this.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned earlier when we were talking about the kind of period of diagnosis, uncertainty, so much of what we hear from so many patients, and it's confirmed yet again by your story of just the roller coaster of emotions, but also decision making, decision fatigue, side effects from medications during this progression from 2020 to now in 2026. What were some key pieces of your mental health that you knew you had to take hold of or take action to try to help you mentally? What would you say, maybe even to a newly diagnosed patient or someone that might be, thinking about how to help
Yeah.
their mental health, but just like how to be in a space where they might be ready to take that step to care for their mental health?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm a big advocate for mental health as well. So you have to stay on top of it. You have to do the work. You have to do therapy, do what makes you happy, because it could be a lonely diagnosis, but just know that you're not alone. There's a lot of people out there that are dealing with this that are really open to helping and just being there if you want to, just someone to talk to. So this time around, what I learned from my first time is don't try to take on all of this by yourself, because it is hard. And that's what I did the first time. And then I had to rebuild myself after that because I just wasn't dealing with it. So just know that you have support and people there that can help.
That's awesome. And we have a ton of mental health resources along with other advocacy partners like the Des Moines Project that you can reach out to, and we can drop their information in the chat. If anyone has any questions about mental health resources, please feel free to pop them into the comments during the live as well. We can't thank you enough for being able to be so open already in this conversation about everything that you've been through. If you want to ask specific questions of Morgan, again, just we're here and we're ready to do that here at the end of the live. So recently, within this past year, you decided to create a social media profile specifically to raise awareness about desmoid tumors and really just share your experience, just from your vantage point on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. Tell us a little bit of why now? Why did that get started in this past year? And what made you make that decision to share in such a personal way?
Honestly, my mom, she kept pushing me to share my story, but it was always out of my comfort zone. And yeah, pretty much it was out of my comfort zone, but she just kept pushing me. So I'm very thankful for that because she pushed me to grow. So I started to do it too because everyone was asking questions and I kind of felt overwhelmed at the time because I kept getting questions nonstop. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not ashamed of it anymore. If I can help at least one person, that's great. So that's kind of why I just wanted to start it. And it's been amazing. I've met so many cool people from all over the world that have helped me and just we've been talking. And so I think it's just a really good platform.
Yeah, that's amazing. And we love following along too. And we encourage everybody to follow. Morgan will drop her handle in the chat later too, and she'll connect with you as well. So just know that there are so many resources out there, and some key themes that we've heard from Morgan tonight is about combating that isolation and loneliness in the diagnosis of desmoid tumor within your treatment plan. Make sure that the basis of support and mental health support is there, but also just stepping out of your comfort zone. It takes so much courage to do that. And to be in a place where you are ready to do that. What do you feel? I mean, mom obviously was a big catalyst for this, but I think it's such a beautiful thing to listen to of like, you had this first diagnosis, this first tumor, and so much you changed as a result that you're like ready to do this. Right. So was there a big turning point, this past year in your life that just was like, I'm ready. I'm ready to share my story.
I can't remember like a certain time where I just was like, I'm ready to do it, but I just remember like feeling it in my heart. I know that sounds kind of, cheesy, but I was just like, you know what? I need to do it. I need to put myself out there. This is something that makes me like really happy to share. So like, even though through all like the trials and tribulations, I just want it out there. I want to help people going through something that I'm going through because I know it's hard. And I know it's confusing for sure. So, and also I want my friends and family to know what I'm going through because I know they're confused as well. So I hope that whatever I post, they would like research it and just know a little bit more about it.
Yeah, for sure. Just that connectivity, it makes a huge difference and a huge weight lifted off your shoulders too. Like you're saying, there's ways that we can leverage technology for good in so many ways. And this is one space that we can really do that and not only raise awareness, but just day to day of connecting with our friends and family that may not have any idea what we're going through, or we're not able to have those day-to-day conversations, right? To fill people in on all these nuanced pieces of this diagnosis and in this rare disease. It's just really hard to explain. I know that you mentioned early on that you went to the internet, right? Which I feel like is for most of us, that's what we do, right? We go to the internet, after diagnosis or a situation in our life. But when did you learn about the DTRF? When did you find us? Because one of our biggest pieces of our foundation, communications wise, is how do we get our name in front of people like right when they're diagnosed, so they have the resources that they need to navigate the next step. So when did you find the DTRF?
Well, when I first found out what I had, I went onto Instagram right away and I typed in desmoid tumor in the search bar. And the first person actually that I came across was Christina. I forget her last name. But I went through her whole Instagram and I'm like, wow, I really love what she's doing and she's putting everything out there. Like she inspires me to do what she's doing. So she's definitely was the first person that really inspired me, but it didn't come until about, I think I recognized maybe 2 years ago. I found you guys, think through Instagram, and that's
Yeah.
when I started following, and then following, and then just doing more research, and that's kind of when I found you at the ambassador program.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think it is such a hard, ever evolving landscape on the internet, and being able to connect with people virtually and being such a, um, in such a small rare disease space, but we see our reach just expanding. The conversations like this are expanding because people continue to engage and share content. And we've just seen that conversation, the conversation around spread the word, be one of those pieces that have helped connect so many people that wouldn't have otherwise found us. But as far as the actual DTRF resources and things you've seen online, not only just with our team, but just on our website, what are like the top DTRF resources that you would point people to right now?
Well, the main thing that caught my eye when I really dug into it was the spread the word campaign about desmoid tumors being intermediate cancers. So that's kind of where it popped out to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, because I was struggling with that for a while. Like, is this cancer? Is this not cancer? How should I feel about it? What should I tell people? So that's really what stuck out to me. So yeah, as people just dive into that because that's like the main question I get every day. People are always like, well, is it cancer? So I advise them to go on the website and just look at the spread the word campaign and just looking at all of that just to be more educated on it, just because that's kind of where I dove into.
Yeah, for sure. And again, this whole campaign is to point people directly to that World Health Organization classification. And we started it for the first time last year with desmoid tumors are not benign. And we've expanded it to really focus on that desmoid tumors are intermediate, locally aggressive soft tissue tumors. And it was defined back in 2020, and it still is like a very, very slow progression to be able to make sure that like language truly matters, going back to that classification, our first step in a long line of different awareness initiatives, different advocacy kind of pillars that we have behind the scenes to make sure that the language is really front and center, not only in the patient community, but like I mentioned, in the clinical community and educating that sector is just so important. So when you walk into a doctor's office, your doctor knows that classification as well and can communicate it with you. So it is an uphill battle, but it is one that we continuously see that is so important to the patient community. And we appreciate everybody that shared the content, just pointing people back to that classification. And I think you mentioned earlier too, one of the newest programs at the DTRF is our ambassador program. And Morgan is a DTRF ambassador. Is in the beginnings of this incredible program where we're able to unite patients and caregivers in this core group of individuals that then can go out and spread awareness, not only about the DTRF, but specifically about desmoid tumors. So how has that been so far as an ambassador? You're just now getting plugged in. We have monthly meetups and meetings that get everybody together. How has that been feeling lately?
It's amazing. I look forward to every meetup, just to hear everyone what they're doing with their lives right now, like what they're going through. I'm just very thankful I found it. It's definitely helped my mental health and just everything in general. So I'm really appreciative of you guys.
Nice. And just having that connection. I agree. The meetups are awesome. And again, it's just the beginning. We're getting more structure around the program, really getting patients to plug in. And what we say all the time is they're co-facilitating. We're a piece of it, but the DTRF wants patients to drive this type of initiative more than anything. And so it's been a wonderful start to 2026 to have something that's brand new. And you can always learn more about the ambassador program on social media. If you can sign up for our newsletter, that'll be the latest news and updates around events, programming, initiatives for the DTRF. So everyone pop over and join our newsletter if you haven't already. Just in the last few minutes, I have a couple of follow-up questions. That there's another piece you've in this journey. Not only have you been, courageous enough to put your story on social media, you also decided to start a fundraiser for the first time for the DTRF. And tell us, why now? What about fundraising now was like, again, you made this choice, like, I'm ready. What kind of led to that?
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that got me out of my comfort zone too. So a lot of people, I got my work or friends and family, they're like, well, how can I help? How can I help you while you're out of work for this amount of time? And I was like, honestly, just please help donate to the foundation because we need the resources to learn more and get that much closer to a cure. So that's kind of where I just started it. And everyone was like, wow, okay. So I've been kind of just telling my friends, my family, anybody I can. It felt a little like uncomfortable at first, but now I'm just kind of getting used to it and it's for a good cause. So, and I'm really thankful for all the support that I've been getting through it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to watch. And you kicked it off in a space where you were about to potentially have surgery, and now you have had surgery too. And just knowing that you have the support of our team, anyone who fundraises with the DTRF, we're constantly building out how we can support our peer-to-peer fundraisers because you really drive so much of our mission forward and funding life-changing desmoid tumor research. So a big step, you mentioned that, like it's uncomfortable, right? And it was out of your comfort zone to start fundraising. What is, I guess, your best piece of advice right now for people thinking about starting their own fundraiser that like may be on the fence?
Honestly, do it. I mean, it's very rewarding. And if it makes you scared, just do it because I was nervous. I was super nervous. I'm like, oh, but what if people think I don't know, like I don't know what people are going to think. So just honestly, just go for it. Just start it. And then it doesn't have to happen overnight. Just let it happen gradually, day by day, and see where it goes.
Yeah, no pressure, just in that moment and doing what you can when you can is all that matters. So yeah, that's awesome advice. And we were sharing before we got on tonight, like it doesn't come naturally to most people. That's okay. That's all right. And but knowing like in your heart why you're doing it is all that matters.
Right.
And then the rest will come and the funds come too as a result of that passion and as a result of the confidence to just like put yourself out there. So we appreciate it so much. And we've had so many great conversations with peer-to-peer fundraisers, specifically patients and caregivers that take that chance and they get so much from it as a result that they didn't anticipate. And it's just such a wonderful feeling to hear that too, and to hear that from you as well. We're going to start wrapping up here in a second, but I want to remind everybody to drop some questions in the chat. Make sure that we get as many questions as we can in for Morgan before we're out of time this evening. We so appreciate everybody that's tuned in tonight and then everybody that will eventually watch the recording of this conversation. We've walked through Morgan's diagnosis, a little bit about her treatment and multiple or 2 surgeries now over the last 6 years, and some specifics about her mental health and mental health resources as well. But overall, I've just seen firsthand that you are just a fierce advocate and you came from a place of not knowing though if you could do that for yourself, which I think is the biggest piece that I will take away from tonight and having talked to you of that progression, that if somebody's being let's say, like we talked about earlier, being really hard on themselves, for not being able to make decisions or advocate in the moment with a clinician. I just love that, that you built that muscle over time. And now you're in a space where you're not willing to even, but your directive. Do you feel like you've had anybody that helped pump you up in that way, an advocate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first of all, my parents, they've been through it since the beginning. My husband's been there since the beginning. My friends, family, like everyone was just pushing me out of my comfort zone. And I'm just so thankful for that because so much has come from it. So I met I've so many amazing people on Instagram through DTRF, and it's just amazing. So good things do come out of your comfort zone for sure.
We're going to get into some questions now, just to kind of follow up with some folks online. You've gotten so many great comments and so many people just, lots of high praise and just in the moment with you as we are able to talk together. So I'm so thankful we got this time tonight. Let's go in a little bit deeper too on what would you say the top 3 things you've learned about yourself are during this journey. And I know that you're actively in post-op recovery right now and continuing to learn so much, but what are those top 3 things?
Honestly, the top 3 things would be just how strong I really am, just how much I've grown through all this, and that just you definitely have to advocate for yourself. That's just the number 1 thing for me, and that you're not alone. You're not alone in this. So as lonely as this diagnosis is, you're not alone, and there's people out there that are more than happy to help you through mental health, through the diagnosis, through your treatments, all of that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, those are incredible things. And again, like just watching that progression in you and just the short time where we've gotten to know each other, it's really evident that you put those into practice every day. Even on your worst days, right? That's where you need them the most. And those things, definitely somebody will hear those and, take your advice, I hope. And if not, reach out to our team, contact our team anytime at info@dtr.org to connect to more resources. We pride ourselves on being connectors to point patients and caregivers in the right direction for their next best step. So know that we're here. Our website is a clearinghouse of resources, so please check it out and make sure that you subscribe to our newsletter for the latest news and updates and about in-person events and virtual events, where again, we shrink that isolation, right? When we connect with one another, even if it's virtually, that we're able to have these type of platforms that give us a chance to be together and listen to one another. So I'm so thankful that we got to do this. We've got a couple more minutes, guys. If you have any questions for Morgan, just drop those in the chat. And I'll ask another one just for the time being of what advice right now, I know we talked a little bit about it earlier, but what advice would you give a newly diagnosed patient? If you can think about Morgan back in 2020, what would be the advice you would give her?
My advice would just to be kind of sit still with it for a little bit and just take it all in. And then don't be afraid to ask for help, because in the beginning, like I said before, I took on everything myself, and people are like, why are you so strong? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. But I actually was just kind of burying everything down deep. And just don't do that. Just kind of ask for help right away. So that way it doesn't all crumble down, which happened to me. And then I had to rebuild. So I would just don't be afraid to ask for help. I mean, this is very lonely. It could be a very lonely diagnosis. So reach out to anybody, like do your research, like I did, go on Instagram, find you guys, find anybody that's going through it. So just ask for help.
That's awesome. I know we've got a couple more minutes before we wrap up, everybody, but I'm so thankful that everyone is here and being able to sit into this conversation and then the recording later on. We are just going to wrap up in a couple minutes, but I want you to just for a second, Morgan. I know you mentioned a couple of times that you're a super active person. Workout love working out. I think that the rebuilding is something also to talk about, whether it's mentally rebuilding or physically rebuilding. So talk a little bit more about the physical side of like, what do you do physically that has helped? As whether it's post-op surgery now that you have to obviously heed the advice of your doctor in recovery, but also just on a day-to-day basis before surgery.
Well, what I've noticed is just find things that you enjoy doing. So I had to kind of stop working out for a little bit, which was very hard on me, but I found other things. So I did more artsy stuff. I took more walks. I was slower, not as like extreme weightlifting anymore. I kind of had to switch my lifestyle around a little bit, which was really hard at first. But I've noticed like a change in me. I've noticed things that make me happier now, or like the small things in life. So I've kind of appreciated the smaller things in life. So I just, and also staying with my therapy. So that helps. That helps a lot too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And just seeing again like this progression of you know, taking that next step to just pivot and to change what that routine could fill that void that was missing from being super active. And it's hard to start again and try to find something that you love that could fill that. And it may not fully fill that, but you found things that can really, you know, take care of you in that moment and put yourself first as well. I know tonight you're wearing a super special sweatshirt, so I want to call that out to you. Tell us about your sweatshirt.
My beautiful sister actually got this for my birthday, I think 2 years ago, last year. I'm not sure, but it's she kind of created it herself, Warrior, and then it has uh, Des Moines Tumor Awareness on the back. But yeah, she made this, and she also made my little hat. So yeah, it means a lot to me. I mean, I've had like great support, so it's just awesome that she did that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, along with your fundraiser and then just your support, who knows? I mean, there might be some new Des Moines Tumor coming down the way that we can definitely spread awareness together. But it's just so beautiful to see how your family's rallied around you and the support system that you described, but also your vulnerability tonight to say that despite having everybody around you, it can be really lonely. And
Yeah.
so just knowing like you took those steps is just incredible. You know, incredible for me to listen to and for everybody that joined us tonight. One last reminder, if you have a question for Morgan, feel free to send it our way. We just have appreciated being able to sit together in honor of Rare Disease Day, which is this Saturday, February 28th. Show your stripes, get involved, spread the word with us. That's the best way that you can do it. You know, with the HRF is to get in, you know, in along this campaign, follow along to the content. We have an awesome webinar coming up in March that I'll tell you a little bit about when I close up this conversation. So just know that there's opportunities to get involved with a special day, and we will keep spreading awareness all year long in a lot of different ways too. I had a quick question. I think from Julie, I'm seeing is, have you ever considered, or your sister potentially getting in on selling your Des Moines Warrior sweatshirts?
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure she would love helping with that too. But yeah, I mean, spreading awareness any way I can, that'd be awesome.
That's awesome. Well, you might have some folks interested after this for sure. So I can't wait to see how your Des Moines Warrior profile, which we'll include in the chat for anybody wondering how to get in touch with Morgan or to follow along with her journey, just to get to have more connectivity in this community. That's what we're all about. We want to make sure that people are able to get in touch with one another if they want to. And just thank you so much for being here tonight. We're gonna wrap up our conversation, but I know that this is just the beginning for you and I and the DTRF team about how we get to work together, how we get to follow along with your journey, and just we're so honored to be a part of your life.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. It was amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, I will be in touch very soon, Morgan. We thank you so much, and I'll talk to you later.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was just such a wonderful conversation with Morgan. And as we continue our work in 2026, we want to be sure that you don't miss a thing when it comes to desmoid tumor news, DTRF updates, like I mentioned, live events, in-person events, and other virtual webinars. So please be sure to subscribe to our newsletter if you haven't already done so. So follow us on all our social media channels. As always, visit dtrf.org right now, or when you're listening to this recording for the latest desmoid tumor resources. And feel free to contact us if you want to connect directly with the DTRF team at info@dtrf.org. Thank you so much for tuning in today in honor of Rare Disease Day. Don't forget to keep spreading the word with us by sharing this recording and all of our other campaign posts throughout the month of March. Also, be sure to save the date for our next Spread the Word educational webinar, which is on Tuesday, March 24th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And we hope to see you then. Thanks so much.